Welcome to the Therapist After Dark podcast. Ever wonder what happens when the therapy session is over? Well, we're digging into the funny, heartwarming, and surprising stories therapists have after they leave the office. Join us, two mental health professionals, every week for a dose of laughter, a touch of drama, and maybe a few shocking revelations. Because therapists are people too. Okay, another episode, huh?
Yes, episode 3.
Cheers.
Cheers. I know, I'm like stuffing this down because I need coffee.
Coffee with a little twist. So did you end up watching Love is Blind?
So I watched the original season, right? During COVID. And then I just forgot about the show. I didn't think it came back, but I didn't realize like there's a big following. So I put on the first episode. And of course it sucked me in. But I don't know. Like, what do you think about it? The whole concept of you're the relationship coach expert here, so.
Gosh. Well, it's so funny. I remember when it first came out, and my friends were all like sending it to me. It was like during COVID, right?
Right.
And I was like, no, I don't believe it will work. Like, this is ridiculous. I think it's going to be fake. And then I was totally proven wrong. There's that couple. I forget their names because I really don't like.
The first couple from the first season, I followed them on Instagram.
I know, Cameron, and I forget her name. But they've been together now for what, like 5 years almost? Well, I guess 4 years because it's been since COVID. Oh no, I think they even filmed it probably a year before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, okay, totally proven wrong. The system works. And then a few other couples started coming out. In fact, there's 2 from the first season. Amber and her dude, I forget his name. But like they have, they've been using their platforms to like, I don't know, spread awareness and like do all sorts of things. I think it's kind of cool. So yeah, I was just like, oh, this does work.
Well, okay, so as again, you're the love coach, your relationship coach, everything coach. What do you think has a better concept behind it? Love is Blind or The Bachelor?
Oh,
like what do you think would work?
Yeah, I think the concept behind Love is Blind is better because it's not, I mean, yes, there's competition, but it's competition based off of like, I don't know, connection, and if you happen to fall in love with the same person, but there's multiple options for each person. Unlike The Bachelor, it's like that one person and it's like all these women or all these men pitted against each other to get one date, like with one person, everyone's dating everyone. And I also like the idea of everyone kissing everyone. It just feels a little grimy, even though I'm, a sucker for a Bachelor. But I do really like Bachelor Pad because it's like all the old contestants come back and then they're, they have a chance to find love on the island or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Would you ever go? Like if you were single, would you go on? I mean, it'd be a perfect contestant. Love is Blind.
That is a tough question. I think I think this is gonna sound so narcissistic of me. Okay.
Oh my goodness. That's a
I would love to be the Bachelorette.
Of course. Who wouldn't?
No, I honestly I don't think I could handle like competing for the same person.
Yeah.
I think that's I could get very competitive and like I just don't think I'd be very nice. So like I know, right? Know your weaknesses, know your strengths. That's so competing for the same man, or not even very nice. I'd probably even just like pull myself out of it. Like I probably wouldn't even try because I'm like, why try if I'm gonna fail? Such a bad mindset.
Well, it was really interesting. I remember this one time. I don't remember which season it was, but there was a therapist on there, and she was a younger therapist. But it was so funny because she kept telling everybody she was a therapist, and she was crazy.
Really?
The way that they portrayed her on it was just like she was like super just not regulated, very like clingy and like jealous, and yet the platform is not for like of course you can't help your human emotions, of course, but like you know what you're doing, like you signed up for this.
And the girls tend to get along pretty well, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think that want actually to like be friendly with the girls would supersede the want to get
find man. Yeah. Because, I would agree.
Yeah.
Well, you're a girl's girl. I'm a girl's girl too.
Yeah.
So it's like
trying to be.
Yeah. you are?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I was like, I would just be afraid if I was in this profession to go on one of those shows to be portrayed like in a light that would basically be the end of my career.
But at the same time, it goes in line with like what we're doing. Like therapists are human too. Like
Yeah.
you put a therapist in a show like that where there's competition, there's I don't know, this want for love and connection. Yes, maybe a therapist should be able to be more regulated than someone who maybe isn't a therapist or hasn't been in therapy, right? That's the reason, that's the hope, because that's where you try and help our people do. But at the same time, like therapists are human too, right?
Yeah,
like that's
for sure.
And I wonder if they try, and sometimes they do things on purpose, right? They make things look like it's not.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They what do they call it? They create situations in order to, build up followings and stuff like that. So I get it. Like there's definitely it's sensationalized.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's easy to make me look crazy because I'm loud. Like I'm very like animated, right? So and I say stupid shit all the time, like because I think I'm so funny and I'm really not that funny.
Viewers, why don't you chime in on this?
Rate me on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
But so I do think about that, like going on the show as a therapist, knowing that I'm like this loud, kind of, again, thinking I'm funny and animated person. I do worry, like, what would that get spinned into?
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, I feel like that's like the one thing that having this profession, not that it limits us to like, doing things like that, but it definitely gives you pause.
Yeah.
It definitely makes you think like, is that how I want to be portrayed? Can I control the narrative? So that way I don't like hurt my client relationships or whatever. Or do I just like live my truth and therapy be damned, like you have so many options.
I'll make a new career. I'll be a reality TV star now.
I love it. I love that for you. You would fit in so well. I feel like you would. You do such a good job.
I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but
well, it was so funny. So, like with this particular episode with Love Is Blind, because like because of the last season, it was so fucked up. It just like wasn't good at all. I don't know if anybody made any connections. It was horrible. And so after that, like I was just like, I'm not watching the show anymore. But then everybody's been talking about it. I was like, well, I guess I'll peep in on this thing. And one of the first couple episodes, there's this guy on there, and I kind of mentioned him like on my Instagram or whatever. And he was such a textbook narcissist. Yeah. And at first, I felt for it too, girl. Like, and I was like, oh, he's so sweet and charming, because of the way that it's so isolated. I couldn't see all the pieces. Yeah. But I was like, oh my gosh, like he almost got me.
So I get sociopath vibes from him. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Very strategic. Very like he's plans like, and it comes out more and more the more you watch the show, and I'm like, oh.
Totally. Yeah, he's totally on the other end of the spectrum, because we talked about, I think, narcissism being on a spectrum and stuff, but yeah, he's totally on the other side. Just the way he isolated himself from everybody, but then was like super charming with the women, and then planted the same seeds with multiple women, so he had options for his supply. And then he was like, well, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave because you don't want me, and I'm gonna go find the other girl, because the other girl left. She's like, I'm fucking been duped. Yeah. This sucks. But it was cute to see the women like come together in those moments and support each other, whenever they met shit again.
I will say both the shows have that, I think, that common thread. You do see the women come together a lot in the shows, for the most part. I know there's a few tiffs and kerfuffles. But yeah, again, it's crazy shows, fun to watch. I don't know if I'd go on one. Would you?
No, I mean, no. I mean, yeah, I think there was a period in my life where, so actually, story time, you ready? So since I lived in LA, and I would watch The Bachelor with my friends and stuff, and I was pretty close enough to like some of the studios. I got this, I don't know how it was like some casting director, I found some website or I don't know what it was. Anyway, I went and like got like a test reel done or something for a millionaire matchmaker.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, well, if I'm gonna be on a show, I want to be on that one.
Get my money.
I'm trying to get my bag, honey. Yeah, and so I was like, but it was interesting because it's like one of those things where I did it and then I got a call back, but something didn't feel right, so I just didn't go. You know, I didn't follow it through.
Yeah.
And I think that just has a lot to do with like, you know, it was not meant for my soul.
Yeah. I mean, and it's scary. Like we could sit here and be like, oh, it might be cool to go on it, but like to actually go on it, like
Totally.
it's so scary to put yourself on the line like that and not know again what the narrative is going to be and how people are going to perceive you. Yeah. So snaps to the people who go on those shows because it takes a lot of courage, a lot of guts.
Oh my gosh, I know. And what's so funny is that and I wonder if this happens to the other contestants, but like they had me on their list for years.
Really?
Oh yeah, I think I was still getting like contact from them like even like 2 years ago. And this was 2014, so it's been, you know, like 10 years.
Wow.
And they probably stopped calling me or putting me on their list like probably 2 years ago. And I was like, I'm not coming to any of your auditions. You'd think you'd take my name off the list, but
yeah.
Whatever.
Well,
cutie.
They really want you on there.
They really wanted me on there. They really found a match for me and the millionaire. What was I gonna say? So like one thing I noticed was there was that guy. There was another guy in there that I wanted to talk about. His name was Trevor. Do you remember him? He was the bigger, stockier guy, brunette.
And he kept saying, I want people to like me for me, not my body. That's what he kept saying, right? That's what he kept saying. Like, that wasn't his thing, right? Like people see me, they see him big muscular guy, but they don't see me for who I am, kind of.
Okay, you know, I just was looking at his body and just passed that up. I'm just kidding.
No. When he said it like enough times, I was like, okay, we get it. We get it. Thank you.
Well, it was interesting. What I liked about him was that he, when the girl chose, because I haven't finished it, so I don't, you know, spoiler, I don't know all the spoilers. I don't know who gets married in the end. I haven't gotten that far. But what I liked about him was that he presented himself to be this like what I would assume from this very limited interaction, like a true like masculine. He was clear, he was concise when he spoke to her, he knew exactly what he wanted, and he told her up front that she was the only one he was going to date, and that he gave her space to choose him, you know, and whenever she didn't choose him, he asked for clarification. And what was really interesting, he was like, so I'm curious because, you know, here I am, and, you know, we definitely have a deep connection. And I've been pursuing you exclusively since basically the start of this.
Right.
And yet you chose the other guy who wasn't 100% about you.
Wow.
And she was, you know, she was like crying, like could not, she didn't have an answer for him, right?
Right.
But I just thought it was interesting because he was just so clear about it. He's like, well, you know, I just appreciate meeting you and thank you. And he's like, if you don't mind, like leaving the pods, because I'm not ready to face the men yet because I need to process my emotions, so I'm just going to sit here if that's okay. And he was just so clear and kind with like the whole ending of it all. Now I know that they meet together later on, so like I could be totally just like jumping the gun on like how good of a guy he is or whatever, but that moment really did signal to me as like, oh, he has this very masculine quality. He held the frame, he was kind, and he was just a gentleman about it all.
Yeah.
Which the other guy wasn't. And what's really interesting is that she, since they've been together, has been exhibiting so much insecurity. Like she really just feels like she's the second choice. Like she's the second option. She keeps projecting that out into the field.
Yeah.
Whether that's true or not, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I haven't watched it that much, but yeah, I mean, I think people get really confused about what like masculinity really is too.
Yeah.
So for you to frame it out that way, and like, I think that was really, I don't know, I don't know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think that it's hard to, we live in a culture that's such toxic masculinity. And actually, I think this kind of brings up another point, like, being a therapist back in the day, when it was predominantly a male-dominated industry, it was like highly revered. And now you have people who, like you, clinical social workers,
right?
Even the term social work just automatically makes you assume that you're getting paid like $70,000 a year, maybe, if you're lucky.
Right.
Even though you have a degree from NYU and are an esteemed colleague and all these things.
No one's paying you $70,000 as a social worker.
Right?
It's crazy.
Yeah, my friend makes like $100K, but she has been in the industry for like 15 years.
Right.
And I think she probably has 2 jobs. I don't know.
Right. But you go in right out of grad school.
Yeah, no one.
Right.
0%.
And no one teaches you to just go into private practice. It's so taboo.
Right. There's no business courses that they offer and
Right. And it's like expected that you have to do your time.
Right.
Which, fine, I'm good with doing my time, but pay me. Like my first job out of grad school was the hardest job that I've ever had.
Why? Was that when you were the first responder? Yeah,
it was an intensive outpatient program for children and a trauma team.
Oh, okay.
So it was pure trauma. Oof. Yeah. 6 hours of therapy per client a week in their homes, sometimes with the perpetrator in the home.
What?
Yeah. And it was all Rhode Island based. So Rhode Island it's small, so you could get to every place in like an hour or so. But I mean, and I loved what I did. Like it was I during that time period, my life was shit, and that was the best. Like going to work, like even though it was so shitty at times, it was just, I don't know, working with these children and young adults who've been through so much and just like getting them to a new safe space. Yeah, it was amazing. But I was also paid peanuts.
Yeah, so. Totally, for like the hardest work in the world, right?
Yeah. I think honestly, I hate to say this, but if my salary was double, I would have stayed.
Oh yeah, no doubt, for sure. Yeah, I know. I feel like if you would get paid what you really deserve, considering the level of stress that you're going under, like I need a mental health day. I need mental health professionals to help me get through this job.
I was only getting paid. I think I started out like 48.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's actually not that bad, and considering some of these other places.
Yeah.
Yeah. My first job out of grad school, they wanted to pay me, I think it was in California too. It was like $40K. And I'd have to work every Sunday. And I said, no, that's footballs. Football day. I can't go. So I packed up my shit and moved to Denver. I never looked back.
Honestly, good for you. Boundaries. Sunday football, that's it.
I guess I learned my lesson from that really terrible boundary example that I gave last episode. Yeah, I was like, no, football, I'm not doing it. Fuck this, I'm leaving. So yeah, it's wild. This career is so wild to me. But I agree. It's like I remember there would be days, and even now, like if I'm in like a headspace that doesn't feel like the best, it shifts immediately when I'm with my clients. Yeah. You know?
I get like, this is gonna sound a little crazy, I get like high off of like being with my clients and like working through things. It is like no other drug. Totally.
Especially when there's like movement and like you feel like you're doing something.
And there definitely are times where you get the opposite of that when you feel stuck with your client and you just feel like not so great. A little drained. But when you're moving and grooving with your client, that high is like no other.
Yeah, absolutely. 1,000%.
There's no drug. Let me know if there's a drug that matches that high, people.
Cheers to the therapy high. Therapy high drug. Oh my gosh, that's funny.
We hope that you enjoyed the peek behind the therapy room curtain. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share the podcast. Until next time, remember, life's a journey, even for your therapist. Take care and see you next episode.